Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for joining me on another of my wonderful interviews. The system that we have at the moment with our government, I think most people are pretty upset with it. They might want to just throw their hands in the air and go, what we need is another political system, is a better one. Well, just so happens I have a young man waiting in the wings to come on and tell us about a better political system. His name is Daryl Brown and he joins me now. Hello, Daryl.
Hello, Richard. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Now, I've been talking about the government and the nonsensical system and the way it's been very dictatorial. We have this tyrannical government telling us what we're going to have. They seem to forget that we are the ones paying their bills and they're supposed to be our servants. And yet now they think that they are our masters. And so this is what I've been banging on about. And here you come out of the blue with a new framework for a better political system. So, Daryl, what's the framework? It's No Corruption Alliance. That's the name I've got here.
Yeah, that's the name I've christened it with. I've been working very hard over the last 3 years, 2 years or so on creating the ideology is the frameworks are quite simple itself. I've been working hard on creating a website to assist the process to help make that happen, maybe. But the idea is very simple that we have meetings in our local political parliamentary constituency. So mine's Finchley and Golders Green, and with other people who they may have different views than us, whatever, whoever wants to come to change our political system for the better. I could explain some of the ways it's not working, but who would like a change and recognizes that it's very corrupt and we don't get the things that is does not what voters want, or that's even in the manifestos that happens. It's what people with money and power and access to those parties and politicians want that ends up happening. So this framework is we meet in our local parliamentary constituencies and we chat there, we share information and material of our different opinions, maybe of who we'd like to be as what we'd like as an MP instead, and then we lend our endorsement to someone, probably from those meetings, who could be an independent, and we would do a show of raised hands to vote who we'd endorse, and that endorsement will be very valuable. It gets people together. It cuts out a lot of the media noise and you must hate this person or that person. We can share information in a local manner, and we can endorse someone from there to run as an independent instead. And hopefully that endorsement will be known to be more powerful than a corporate political party bought one. And it's I hope that's simple.
Well, no, it does sound. I mean, the most encouraging thing is, can I ask how old you are?
I'm 33. I've had a bit of a face shave,
Oh,
so it cuts me off a few years sometimes, luckily.
well, if you're 33 and you're thinking about these things, I was talking to somebody earlier today, talking about younger people being engaged in the political system, in the governance of countries and stuff. And this is really encouraging. Would you say that you are fairly normal of the people that you know? I mean, are more young people interested in changing the system that we have?
Oh no, there's a lot of um, I don't know. I was I've been incarcerated in mental institutions for quite a lot of my life, so I'm probably not the prerequisite of what normal is.
Right. Okay. I don't know how to take that incarceration thing,
No, not most
but
of my life, but I'm not. I didn't go to school, so I don't know what normal is. So I don't.
brilliant.
To be
Well,
honest with you.
to me, that sounds as if you're very qualified because we don't want anybody normal. We want extraordinary people, and you sound quite extraordinary to me. So that's a good thing. Well, I suppose what I'm asking is, do you feel that younger people, and this is something I feel that we desperately need, is younger people are engaged in their future?
Um, yeah, I don't know. It seems I don't think it was just with younger people. Although they do, it's quite natural when people are younger to not give much bother about political whatever, and they just want to enjoy their lives and follow their excitement and exploration of the world and their hormones, whatever, as much as they want. That's probably more of their priority. But I don't know. In some cases, someone was telling me in India, it's people are are factionally in political parties, and it's a big deal to people whether they're young or not.
Right.
But
I mean,
yeah,
it's
there's
interesting.
definitely reasons people should care about what's going on.
The reason I ask is that, I mean, when I was a kid, I admit I wasn't terribly interested in politics because I was interested in other things. But certainly in the 60s and 70s, there seemed to be a faction of society who were very radical, or we would think of them as radical and against the establishment, people sort of fighting. Nowadays, it doesn't look like there are quite so many. The people who are fighting the establishment seem to be the oldies who thought that they were going to be part of the establishment, and now it's actually this faction of fighting the establishment. Maybe they're still doing the same as they did before. But anyway, no, that was a sort of a by the way, because I'm interested in the future, and of course, younger people are naturally going to be the future. So I'm fascinated. So why have you called it No Corruption Alliance?
Well, I think that aiming for high standards is a good idea, and there's so much corruption in the way that um, the political process works. It works to as a control mechanism to feed the interests of people with lots of money that considered I'm sure they consider themselves very powerful as a result of that.
So how do you instill standards?
Well, I think that by removing one of the main control mechanisms and making it more of a um, more beholden to people that are local and more engaged and not in part and more decentralized and not part the of a controlled institution that has bribery, blackmail, and you must vote every law through that the party says pretty much, or else. Um, I think that we would be much better served if we weren't ramming through all these laws, if they weren't being pushed upon us, and it wasn't set up so that the powerful donors and class that get access to these parties and the powerful people within them, that they don't hollow swallow up all our wealth and prosperity and freedoms. So come thought I've come up with what I think is a relatively simple framework to untangle that, and we have got some good aspects to our culture and democratic processes that we need. We've got a decent place to capitalize on them from if we wish to.
So could you outline some of those then? What are our assets in that way?
We have uh, quite a good. We've got freedom of speech is a cultural asset that is quite strong here. Freedom of association, freedom of movement. The general election process itself is not too is relatively clean, and people want fair elections. They don't want rigged or dodgy elections. There's still a reasonable core to keep that process um, good at the moment in with the general elections. Um, So we want to hold on to that, and we want to, and we have a strong tradition of voting in person as well, on paper, with certain levels of transparency and observation. And it's frowned upon if people, and in other countries, someone's telling me in India that people simply pay for votes, and here that's something that's frowned upon and usually swallowed up very quickly if people try and do things like that. So we've got some things to work with. I'm sure there's many other ways you could expand upon that throughout history. But yeah, we have some decent foundations that we can go from if we want to.
So there is a sort of a hint that, and some people think it's more than a hint, that digital IDs, for example, are likely to come in. And we know that in the next general election, you will require some form of digital ID. And some people are against that. Do you think that's a good thing to have?
No, no, of course not. I think the encroachment of digital surveillance state in all aspects of our lives is and will be an terrible thing if we let it expand further than it's already ready become. Yeah, no, it's a terrible thing. So for voting, um it seems largely unnecessary. I mean, the cheating was not so overwhelming in terms of having some kind of photo identification they use now, isn't it? They just brought in for your local polling station, which is there's not been an overwhelming. There was some problem with students, I believe, in some areas they would have two addresses because they'd be at a university and a home. So from what I hear, there was some students that were using those two addresses to vote in their university town and their hometown, which obviously was a problem. But um, I don't think it was endemic enough to bring in even photo ID, let alone what may come in beyond that, which is I don't think there's digital ID at the moment for voting, is there? There's photographic, like I don't know, is it a picture of a picture of you or some kind of document, is it?
Well, I didn't vote in the what is it, the May elections. I voted prior to that, but I've stopped voting now because I don't believe in the overall system altogether. Um, but moving on to, so you're saying with your framework, you're still in the system. So what do you suppose would happen? There you are. You've set up these local branches, and people elect a representative who stands as an independent. And people then vote on the basis of that person. So you've got what would happen next? You need 600 and whatever it is people to or whatever the minimum is to form a government. Would they form a government?
Yeah, yeah. It's there's no friction, there's no violence, there's no there. It's they would have the legitimacy um from that loose alliance to go to the Queen and say we've won the support of people voting for us in a fair election.
You might have trouble going to the Queen, of course.
Well, that's how it works, isn't it? What do you mean?
Well, she died.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, sorry. I know. Yeah, sorry. I mean the king, the king it is now, right?
it is. It is indeed. Um, you'd have no problem going to him, of course. Uh, I just knew if I didn't say something, somebody in the comments would be going, "Oh, doesn't he know?" So yeah, sorry about that. Um, so what would be the strategy then of all these independents if they were in? Would they have a strategy, a strategy that they all agree on?
No,
Because
but
if
there doesn't obviously there'd be a theme of people came
I mean,
together
what would
because
be the
they
overall manifest? You know, I mean, when they're in government, how would they operate if they're all independents from different regions?
well they'd have a free vote. They'd be beholden to the people from their local meetings in their constituencies who endorsed them in the first place. They can revoke their endorsement at any time,
Right.
and so there'd be a more more um, so they'd be beholden to them, and um, sorry, the question was how would
Well,
that?
I'm just wondering. I mean, because I don't really. We've never been in that situation before, as far as I know. We
Mm,
would always have a major party. We'd have some independents, and then
mm,
we'd have the second major party, and perhaps a third major party. But I'm assuming that in order to get these people actually into power, so one of them would be the prime minister, who would form a cabinet.
mhm.
um, there would have to be enough of these independents, presumably. I'm not quite sure how this works. This is why I'm a bit
Yeah,
curious.
yeah, no,
Uh,
perfect question. Yeah.
yeah, so can you explain if enough people are voting for all the I mean, would they become collectively an independent party?
No, there's a loose alliance. There are independence alliances out there, different parts of the world. And here sometimes I'm pretty sure there have been and are as well. So it would just be so that it would be a loose alliance. It wouldn't be a party. There would be no manifesto. At the moment, you have manifestos that are not fulfilled.
Mm.
They
No,
are
well,
lies.
we yeah, absolutely, we know that. But how would you battle against the Conservatives and the Labour Party to beat them?
Well, you'd just be coming from where you're coming from, and when you say, well, after they've got the votes, let's run through the pro. If it, Let me just quickly run through the process. Let's say they've got through, like I think you were
Mm.
originally were inquiring about. They people endorse a local independent from these meetings, from their discussions and sharing
Yeah.
whatever and ever. They that endorsement is hopefully seen as very valuable compared to empty manifestos and the corrupt practices the way it is. And then they get in. They all so now they've got a loose alliance. They might talk to each other. They'll have to obviously have a discussion with each other and go, all right, you can you can be and they'll discuss within each other they'll can nominate, all right, I'll let you can be the prime minister, we think you'd probably be better qualified for that, you can be the whatever ministerial positions that need filling, they can sort that out. And most importantly, the laws that are being passed through or not passed through are not dictated on through a centralized institution that are deciding. They will have what is called a free vote. Parties now call that a free vote, where you have your own conscience to vote how you would want to vote. Whereas now, the MPs, they might be nice people in your area, even supposedly, and you might even know them, but then they will vote for pretty much everything that the party makes them vote through. So that wouldn't happen. You'd have people using their free conscience, and they would have they would be beholden, obviously, to some extent, to what the people in their local area who have endorsed them would expect of them or not.
Right. Okay. I mean, I mean, I feel hugely encouraged that there are other ideas out there. Where I and maybe some of the viewers might be going, right, okay, this sounds great, but we have these established parties. So, if it was to if we did it for the next election, let's say, and let's just say the Conservative, for the sake of argument, or Labour, which doesn't really matter because they're pretty much the same party these days, they got the majority of the vote, but then there was enough of the No Corruption Alliance candidates as individuals, as independents rather, you'd still have a government formed of, so let's say for the sake of argument, Richie Sunak got in again, smarmed his way in, lied left, right and centre, put up a manifesto that was going to be torn up and thrown away, and more dictating crap was coming down the line, whatever, or even if he does what he says he's going to do, it doesn't really matter. How then I mean, if you're the opposition, if all these people are the opposition, but if they're not the opposition, they are what, thorns in the side of government.
Well, yeah. If they don't win a majority, they then they they might not be able to achieve as much. They might be able to stop some things, bad things. Um, they might not be if if the everyone around them that is there um, all votes the same way on a bill and outnumbers them. Then yeah, no, the really you want a majority of people that are not controlled in such a horrendous way.
I
That's
think
what I
that
think about.
absolutely, yeah, no, and I would agree. We certainly don't want people being controlled and puppet governments. Absolutely, I think at the crux of your framework of the local people getting together in the thing is something that's so missing in the current system, in which it's top down. You're effectively turning the system 180 degrees, as in fact as how it should be. That meetings are being taken place, and your representative, whoever that is hearing what people want in the locality, and then hopefully taking that to the government or to Parliament to negotiate getting that achieved. Is that right?
No, they would be
Well, I'm
the
glad I
government.
got that wrong.
No, it's all right. There are. It's a new. I mean, it's probably a new idea to most people. When I've been knocking on doors, it's almost felt sometimes like I've gone. I'm an alien. Come, just flew down from outer space on your doorstep.
Right. Okay. So clearly, I've misunderstood something. So I know you were saying that there'll be local meetings in local areas.
Yeah, well, they can form a government if there's enough of them.
Hmm.
They can form a government between them as well as be a majority of MPs passing or putting through legislation or repealing legislation or
But are
yeah.
you not? You're not saying it's not grassroots up. It's
Oh
not.
no, no, it is. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's and it yeah. Sorry, maybe I misunderstood.
So
It is, yeah, based on on those meetings, yeah, and obviously if people are unhappy, they can revoke their endorsement, and maybe people at the local meetings will think, well, maybe we need more than just in the future, moving forward, more than just the ability to revoke an endorsement. There are open questions for people to decide. Right, some people believe in more referendums, some people believe in recall mechanisms.
right.
There are other ways to proceed.
So you're effectively making whomever is chosen to be the representative of that area who goes to Parliament is responsible. And as you said, you can either take the power away, or you can, keep him there. So he's kind of on notice, isn't he? Unlike an MP at the moment who feels they can lord it up because they're secure for 5 years, and so therefore they can, just look like they're nice people, but actually just keep saying safe and effective when something is blatantly not necessarily safe and effective. But you're saying that the people would have a lot more power to be able to say, do you know what? We don't agree with you. You've suddenly become a bit egotistical, or you're not putting the policies that we've all agreed, and so therefore you're out.
Yeah, exactly. You can revoke that. Well, and then
Mm.
yeah, you can have stronger mechanisms to do that in the future. But for the immediate time being, you can revoke that endorsement, like you say, if they start acting like that. And that's the only reason they got there. Whereas now it's pretty much a party is the only reason someone got there. Um, and yeah. So they'd be out of a job then at the very least the next time in as the way it's set up now. And I've
Right.
also thought of a mechanism as a pledge that they could do. One things that they'd have to agree to is that any law that they plan to vote through and pass, they would have to have local meetings where they would run through every line of that law in person in their constituency.
Into their constituency. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So that the local people can have a say on it.
yeah, and maybe spot something that that might have been overlooked, or if there's some dodgy advisor somewhere that has advised them that, oh, it's great, just just vote for it or whatever, that can be scrutinized. There's actually a expectation that that will be scrutinized, and that, yeah, in a similar manner.
So then they would vote on that.
No, but if people are unhappy enough, they could then revoke their endorsement of that person, and then they could lend that an endorsement to someone else instead. So the Finchley and Golders Green No Corruption Alliance, let's say, um, could at our meeting, we you know we might want to go to where that MP would be running through every line of the law they say they're going to vote for, and we might be horrified by that, and we say, hey, hold on, that line sounds
Mm.
wrong.
Mm.
That doesn't sound right. We're really unhappy. And if they say, oh, well, we're going to proceed with it anyway, screw you, then we can go, fine. Our endorsement is very valuable. That's the only reason you got there. So we're going to take that away and lend it to someone else. For
So
the
he
meantime,
so
that's the
that
best we have. But we can come
right.
up with better solutions, no
So that
doubt.
individual. So that okay. So let me just. So here am I. I am the one that you've given the power to. You voted me. You given me the trust effectively, and I come back and say, well, what we're going to do, Daryl, is and everybody else in the room, we're going to have this rule where we're going to lock you down for a further 12 months. And you turn around and say, oh, wait a minute, we're not having that. So you'd revoke me, and by default, that would stop his presentation of that to you dead.
You would hope so, but if for whatever reason not, then
Well, what I mean is,
yeah.
what I mean is, his not the government's version of it, but him presenting it to you. He can't go back and say, yes, they like it, because he's been removed effectively at that point, hasn't he?
Well, he can't then say, well, I've got the endorsement of my local
But
no corruption alliance.
so
You
I'm,
know what I mean?
yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
he's
missing. I'm missing something, because if you've given him the power to represent you guys, and he comes back and he reads something, and you say, actually, we don't like that, we're taking that power back. He's no longer the MP. You give it to somebody else.
let me separate out. So we have our local meetings, who we lend our endorsements. So I'm pretty sure you've heard in America, endorsements from people and businesses are seen as really valuable. Just an endorsement. If a
Right.
celebrity endorses something, people go, "Oh wow, that must be a good
Oh,
thing. The
okay.
celebrity's endorsed it." So instead of a celebrity endorsing a candidate, we're not electing them. This is not the general election yet. This is like I, you could call it a local screening, maybe, a local endorsement. So that,
Right.
I
Oh,
think,
okay.
will build a
So
reputation over time. Residents associations probably endorse someone.
yeah. Okay. I kind of misunderstood, because I mean, I don't know the machinations of government intimately on that level. Um, so so the MP that you send to, as who is now an independent, who you vote on, he still remains. There's not much you can do about that. He remains for the term.
Yeah, for the time being, he would lose the only thing that got them there, which was our local
Your
endorsement.
endorsement, but that
Yeah,
he could still he can lose the endorsement, which would be valuable to him, but he could still go back and say, well, I have lost the endorsement, but we're going to do this anyway.
yeah. If all 600 and however many, the majority of all the people that were endorsed by their local meeting all ended up doing that, and they all lost their endorsements. The only one that got there, for the time being, the way it is now, not how
Mm.
you might like it to be, or how we might make it different going forward, but that's just how it is right now. So the most
Right.
powerful
Okay.
thing we've got would be revoking that endorsement. And let's say in a scenario that did happen, maybe they all took bribes of 10 million quid and they didn't care or whatever. Terrible scenario to be in. Maybe they cause havoc for four years or less. That would be terrible scenario, but I doubt they would want to let go of that endorsement. considering that's where it came from. But if they, but go, moving, and we would obviously expect, I imagine people at these meetings, we'd expect something a bit more. We might expect of them as a prerequisite to our endorsement. Maybe we might start thinking, do you know what? Maybe we need a recall feature. Maybe we need so we can get rid of people quicker than
Well,
the
I was going to
current
say,
situations are.
if you end up with and there's always going to be corrupt people, no matter how you try and weed it out. So if you end up with somebody, an MP who's representing you, and he's corrupt, you want a mechanism to be able to say, oh right, he's obviously corrupt. We need to get shot of him and replace him.
Yeah, so maybe we can maybe people might want to have that something a better recall procedure in pass through law as a prerequisite to getting our endorsement in
Mm.
our from our local meetings. Maybe that'd be something we expect as a very first thing to be done, and maybe that's something that would be better. But I've just created a framework where we can start off with. Um, and it's not for me to say, well, it has to be like this or that. That's hopefully what people might want to come up with a better way like that. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's perfectly feasible to create a better way like that with this kind of framework.
And so, what will you do now then? You've got this framework. How do you go about getting that implemented?
um well, there's no friction there really. There's the only thing that could be done to counter it is the establishment would have to make a very bad, a very uh, um, a very bad looking for them move to unseat that.
Well,
Um,
at the moment, you've got the Conservative Party, who's pretty much unloved because of all the things they're sending in. I mean, obviously, they're loved by some people who perhaps aren't really aware of how significant these changes are going to be. Um, but so you've got your framework. What I'm trying to get at is how do you what's the next step for you? You've come up with this idea. You want to get it into motion. How do you do that?
well, um, it's not dependent on a website, but I've been working really hard to create this website where we need the numbers to be able to do it. Otherwise, you just can't do it. So we need
Right.
people to
I'm
meet
going to put
locally.
I'm going to
Um,
put your website up so we can have a look. Here we go. No Corruption Alliance, people-led politics, no more part. When you say no more part, so that's because everybody's independent,
yeah,
assuming that the 600 or whatever number it is, 633 is it or something, that get in, and then you've got a video join us and so on and so forth, which is great. But you're at the early stage of this, so I'm just curious on how you get when you say the numbers, people need to understand the process and the idea and the concept, so they come to a meeting presumably, and then say, yeah, this is how we're going to choose our candidate, and then they choose the candidate. Is that right?
yeah, they endorse choose candidate that they would like to endorse. Yeah, from their local No Corruption Alliance meeting. And
Right.
they can on the website you can see people can if they wish to go to build the numbers that way, they can go on join on the website, show that they're interested in changing the system this way if they believe that's for the better, and you can see how many other people are interested in your area. You can message people in your constituency. You can chat with them. There's constituency chat. So and I'll put the meetings up so you can automatically see when you log in when your next meeting is, who a point of contact is, and then yeah, I mean, if you like the concept, join it and share the concept. Get on there's a country chat there, there's constituency chat there, there's regional chat, there's a general chat, and
So, uh, so
start thinking
as
about
I
how we'd
as
like things to
I
be.
yeah, no, and the link will be on the description, and I urge people to go and have a look. As I understand it, and as I say, I'm not really into that type of politics. You get somebody who wants to do good, usually, or wants to do bad. But you usually get somebody who thinks, do you know what, I could do something for this county or this constituency, and I'm going to put myself forward as a candidate. So, so would they go, and this is the type of people I want to inspire, the No Corruption Alliance. So they would come to you, would they? Or are you saying that basically out of a group of people who are saying, well, it'd be nice to do something jolly, one of them will be going, well, why don't you have a go? All right, then I'll have a go. How does the candidate make himself or herself known?
I imagine it will in most instances, it will probably be the first one. That people will be someone from among those meetings who attends those meetings might think, well, do you know what? I would want to go for that. And you'd probably have a better idea of who they were and what they thought by then as well. Maybe there'd be more than one, and they'd have a debate, and people would endorse one after having a debate.
So in a way, what you're offering to potential candidates is like-minded people who don't want who do not want to have corruption and stuff, and want to take the local decisions and input from local people. So if I was a candidate in your area and I was thinking, I'd like to run, but who am I going to get to endorse me? Who am I going to get to have around me to help me make decisions for the locality and all that? Basically, you're providing a bunch of like-minded people who care about the community and all of that. And so people would join your alliance, and then out of those meetings, as you say, you might have a few rivals and say, well, you might want to do it, but actually, let's put it to the vote. This other guy wants to do it. Is that possible?
Yeah. I mean, I imagine yeah, that's possible. Yeah. Just show a race.
I'm just thinking how you sell it to people who are who are just sort of going, well, government doesn't work. I'd love to be involved, but it's all full of corruption. And although you've got the name No Corruption Alliance, how do they know you're any different from the rest of the lying bastards that are out there?
Well, the first thing that you had, they're not part of an institution. They haven't been groomed in some kind of centralized institution. This is just local people at local meetings, that are decentralized, not part of a centralized institution that's based on donors and money and access and you scratch my back, I scratch yours. Um, Vote, all that nonsense. It's the local people that have more of more that hold the power.
And that's so important. I absolutely agree. It's so important that the local people are the one, because it's their town or village, it's their locality that is that they want to protect or help or grow or progress, whatever it is they want to do. I absolutely get that. So where are you with it? Do you have people in there? Are you doing meetings?
No, I've knocked on a few doors and tried to get a few meetings going, but like you say, it's quite a it hasn't taken off yet. From the odd person's joined at the door. Most people probably think I'm a Martian, just landed on their door, probably don't really get what I'm saying. Like you say, a lot of people just go, well, it's all a load of rubbish, it's all corrupt, or you'll never change anything, or we don't need a government, or I'm a Labour voter or whatever, I'm voting Labour or whatever, or I don't know. It's like it's a new concept. There's been some people that have joined on the website. There's not been. I was helping someone knock on doors in their constituency in Tottenham recently, but then they hurt their leg, and then I was going on my own knocking on doors not on their constituency instead of my own, and no one came to the meeting after I knocked on about 2,000 doors. So there's definitely I don't know, maybe knocking on doors is doing it by yourself. I've noticed when I do it with someone with me who's especially a female, people have more likely warmed to the idea or joined at least on the thing on the website. And once you got enough, once people can see there's enough people on the website in their constituency, then maybe that will be a point where there's enough for us to go, okay, let's have a meeting, and people are actually going to come to it.
And of course, anything new, people resist change, don't they? I mean, you've said it yourself. Oh, it's not going to go anywhere. It's always the same, because people get stuck in a very narrow band, and it's very few people that can adopt change. And you obviously found that, and that's seems to me the biggest hurdle, is getting people to spend time to go, oh, this is a new system, let me understand it, I'm interested, because actually my future might be more rosy if I allow this young man 10 minutes of my life. It might be a life-changing moment, but I imagine that most people are resistant to change, especially if the old system is as duff as it is.
Yeah, I mean, people get knocked down, and I mean, a lot of people might get into the habit, as in a lot of countries, oh well, it's just a bit of authoritarianism. Will keep my head down. I'll be relatively all right, as I won't upset the apple cart. There's always an element of human nature around the world in a lot of cases like that. But I think we quite over the years we've been a relatively more unique place in that we've fought quite hard, and we still have a reasonable extent to believe people culture of believing in freedom of speech, freedom of association, and clean and fair elections and things like that. The I think it's worth just not descending down authoritarian paths, or I don't really care, I'll just keep my head down anyway paths. I mean, the wealth gap has grown by such a massive amount, and it's getting worse there too. I mean, do people really want their kids or other people's kids to grow up or live in a future without those things, without being able to buy a house, and have a family, and that we're losing those things because it's being drained away to the wealth transfer of the laws get passed, and the system is set up to aid who can have powerful people who can have access to the system of government, and that's just going down a bad path. So I think, I don't know, maybe people will be apathetic, maybe people just won't believe for different reasons. Maybe it's just if no one wants to do something, there's no point. But I've only just been working on changing 650 odd constituencies and things that are relative. That's for the new boundary changes on the website. So I don't know. I put a lot of effort into it. So it would be. I think it could be useful, and maybe people at some point might think it may be useful or better. I don't know. I think it would be a better way to do things.
Well, listen, Daryl, it's been brilliant talking to you, and you never know who's watching on these internet things and who might come out of the woodwork and be able to sort of help in some way, or people wanting to join and encourage you. Clearly, you're resilient. You've been thinking about this and you've been dedicated to it. So I absolutely applaud that. It sounds like quite a challenge, but it seems you're up for the challenge. So, that's really good. And also, people, although they are, it seems to me, they don't like change, at the same time, they don't want the same old corrupt system. So there's always hope.
Yeah, why not?
Why not? So brilliant. Well, I'll leave the link in the description. Thank you so much for talking to me and explaining it to me. That's the No Corruption Alliance, a new framework for a better political system. Be interested in your comments. Do leave them below. and we'll see what happens. Best of luck, Darren, and keep at it. In the meantime, I will be back with more interviews and more monologues on the channel, so don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching. From Daryl and I, goodbye.